So please give it up for Bill Mill. So I am a programmer, but I'm not going to be talking about programming tonight, so a lot of people who are programmers can relax a little bit. Yeah. So, in London in the 1850s, there were two major problems. The first of them was cholera. Imagine that next week, 600 people died in Baltimore of the same disease. That would be like a similar pandemic to what was happening in London in the 1850s. The second problem that they had was shit. Horses were the main method of transportation. They made huge amounts of it. People had sewer systems, but they were very primitive and some houses weren't hooked up to them. People filled their basements with shit. People used buckets and then threw the buckets out their back window into their courtyard. It was ridiculous, and it smelled. London stank. And people thought that that literally caused disease. That's the miasma theory of disease. People thought that smells cause disease. But that's nonsense. There were people in Victorian London who lived in the sewers all day, collecting what little things they could out of the sewers and making a living off of collecting stuff from the sewers. These people were called sewer hunters. Okay? And they didn't die every day because there was bad air where they were. Right? They cleaned their hands. They didn't all die of cholera, so it made no sense that there was miasma. Dr. John Snow, in 1849, published a paper in The Lancet arguing that cholera was caused by consuming contaminated water, which was, of course, true. He looked at two slums. They were right next to each other. One slum had one person die. The other slum had 12 people die of cholera. The only difference was where they got their water. What I want to talk to you about today is cognitive bias. Why did the smartest people in the world at the time not listen to better evidence that was presented to them? The whole world believed in miasma even after John Snow talked about this. So, what I want to talk about is how you interpret evidence. Here's a bit of evidence that John Snow found that was very convincing to him. He found a woman far away from a contaminated area of London who died of cholera. He traced her death back to her sons, who brought her water from the contaminated area, which she drank and got cholera and died. And he said, there it is. I found it. I have my evidence. Cholera is caused by water. However, the Board of Health was doing a blue ribbon report. It had the smartest people in London on it. And they said, no, 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 no. Miasma got in air bubbles in the water. When you brought it to her, she drank it, the bubbles popped, the miasma got inside her and she died. That's nonsense. The board was suffering from two biases. First, they were suffering from bandwagon bias. Everyone in the world believed that the cholera was caused by miasma. So there was no surprise when they supported this theory. It was the expected thing. The second and more insidious belief that they had was confirmation bias. Confirmation bias caused these people to use the evidence that was available to support the theory that they already believed, instead of using the evidence that was out there to figure out the simplest theory that supported that evidence. This is a huge difference. Confirmation bias is the root of the biases that I'm going to talk about. Almost all of them are caused by confirmation bias. So, Benjamin Hall was the leader of that public health report. He went to Parliament, he said, the smell in London is killing us. Remember, he thought that the literal bad air in London was killing people in London. We need to support a sewer system, and they did. They gave them a law. They built a huge sewer system in London. They forced everybody to connect to it. It had the effect of dumping thousands more tons of shit into the Thames River, where people got their drinking water. He killed thousands of people because of his bias, because of his mistaken belief. So confirmation bias is not just an academic thing, it's very important. 10 years later, he solved another cholera outbreak, this time using the techniques of John Snow. They found people who were drinking contaminated water, they helped them, they stopped it. He said, oh, well, for the last 10 years I've been supporting John Snow. That's hindsight bias. We're wired to believe in stories, and we'll tell them to ourselves even when they patently do not make sense. So what does this mean for us today? I told you a story in the past because it's easiest to talk about a story in the past and see the biases that happen. Miasma is nonsense. But I'm up here to tell you today that there are theories that are just as nonsense as miasma, and it's your job to go out there and find them and see the things that are wrong in today's world and believe better things, truer things. you are not immune to confirmation bias. There's more information than ever today, and we still use the same tricks and techniques in our brain that they used back then in order to process that information, and it causes the same biases that they had then. So the theories that you have in your mind, try to falsify them. Don't try to support them with the evidence you find, try to falsify them. That's what I have to say. Thank you very much for having me up here to talk. Overcomingbias.com is a great site.